before you guys start, girls and guys. If you guys are comfortable and you don't mind, we would love to actually see your faces so that when Carli is hearing your questions, it's not just a talking head with a little circle, but she can actually see you guys. So if you don't mind going down to the bottom and putting on your video, if you're comfortable, that'll be good. All right, I'm super excited for this week. Carli and I have played against each other going back to, I think, my junior year, your sophomore year, probably, Carli, when you were playing at Epic.
Yep.
And I was playing at Laguna Beach. We were about an hour and a half away. Carli grew up just outside of San Diego. And we played club together against each other in Southern California, and then ended up playing for a year together at Cal. So my sophomore year, Carli's freshman year, 2007, Carli came in and was our starting setter as a freshman, which is pretty impressive and awesome. And we went to the Final Four that year, which was definitely kind of an overachievement considering where we came in ranking that season, and led the way by Carli running a 5-1 as a freshman, which is a huge responsibility, and she stepped right into that role. And I think one of the highlights from that year was I'm beating Nebraska to get to the Final Four. That stacked team that has 3 future Olympians. Our team had 1 in Carli. And we beat them to go to the Final Four, and then lost to Penn State when they were in the middle of their huge dominant streak. So that's kind of our history together, playing together. Carli went on to have an amazing career at Cal. She was the National Player of the Year in 2010, and they went to the Final Four again that year. And then I think one of the most impressive things about Carli, and I'm sure she'll talk about this, is that she didn't stop playing and improving after college. She went to go play pro. She's been playing in Turkey and Italy, Brazil, Azerbaijan, right? And has continued to improve. I mean, even I went back and watched some video from 2010, and she's a different player now. And so it's really amazing to see someone who was already, National Player of the Year, who could have just sat on her laurels and said, you know what, I'm pretty good right now. And she continued to get better and push herself every pro season. And that landed her a spot on the Team USA roster in Rio for 2016, where she took home a bronze medal. I'm sure a lot of you guys watched all those matches. I know we did. And I think also one of her biggest accomplishments is even outside of that, in playing in the Italian league. Her team won the Italian National A1 Championship, which I think the Italian league is the best in the world. So they were the best team in the best league in the world, and she led that team to a national championship. So I'm super excited to hear you talk about some of those experiences to everyone, and just wanted to give you guys an introduction about kind of where Carli is as a player. One quick story. I don't even know if Carli, you know this, but before we get started, so when we played against each other in club, I remember, because you were a year younger, like playing a year up, I think on an 18s team. And I remember we were at a tournament, and Carli, if you guys have seen her play, she's super physical, super strong. And that is something that she's had since she was that age. And, started lifting and training really young. And I remember we were at a tournament, and we were like, Carli, jumps really high. She's really strong. We were always really impressed with your athleticism. And we were maybe in between games, and you changed your jersey, and you were absolutely shredded, like an 8-pack. And my entire team was like, oh my God, we need to all get in the gym. We were shocked. So that, obviously is something that's a big part of her game, but she's not reliant on it. She's also incredibly skilled. So I just had to share that story because I always think of it.
I definitely know that.
It was inspiring even back then.
Oh man, thanks, Kat. That was sweet.
Take it away.
That's hilarious. I didn't know that story either. I mean, I'm sure that's like a memorable thing that won't leave Kat forever.
No, we were
an idol,
we were like, we need to get on her level.
Cool. Man. All right, I'm going to get this Q&A started selfishly by asking a question myself. So a theme that our last theme that we discussed as a group during our distance training was what you're grateful for. So Carli, I just want to know, what are some things that you are grateful for? It can be related to volleyball, it can be related to your family. Just what are some things that you are grateful for right now?
Okay. Right now, especially with this period in time that we've been in for the last couple of months, I have learned that I am actually really, really grateful for time slowing down and being able to have time with my family at home, because my lifestyle the last 10 years since I left college, I get a maximum of 2 weeks with my family every year because the national team season overlaps the professional season. So this time at home has been an absolute gift, and almost, I would say, probably every night of the week. My mom cooks for me and my uncle, and my boyfriend is here with us. And every night I look at her and I'm like, this is incredible. I'm a 30-year-old adult now, and I'm quarantining at home with my parents, and she is so happy that we're here with her. And she cooks the most amazing meals for us every night. And I'm telling you, every night I'm looking at her, I'm just like, I literally feel so much gratitude. It like bubbles up in me, and it's amazing. We live on some acres in Southern California, so the weather's been really nice, and I've been able to learn how to work some really interesting machinery with my uncle because he's very talented and he's built our home. And so I'm just so grateful for the time that I've had. It's been a gift to be here, and then at the same time being able to connect with more people, because normally my life hasn't slowed down enough for me to be able to make connections like this and reach out and be able to talk to people all over the world. I mean, your club being across the nation, and it's just been really, really great, the time that I've had. So very grateful for my mom, for her food and for time, and for being here with you guys right now.
Awesome. I love that answer. I think a lot of our athletes are feeling the same way because I'm sure you're aware in the Northeast, life goes fast. Oh, yeah. We are known for kind of busybodies, always having something on our schedule and going. And this time, there's not a lot on our schedule. So being able to slow down and finding some value within the people that are around you, within the area that you have, I think is something that our athletes and our coaches are really enjoying. With that, I want to get started with some athlete questions. So if you did submit a question, I'm going to ask that your ears are open, and let's get started. So our first question is going to be asked by Kat Ross. Kat, would you mind unmuting yourself and asking Carli your question?
Hi, my camera doesn't work, but thank you so much for coming. My question was, technically, what is the most important skill you should know as a setter?
Cool. Great question. So I am a firm believer that I would say if we break it down into 3 parts, for me, it's footwork, like arm and upper body work, and then hands. And I think the footwork and the lower body stuff, the footwork and the arms and stuff like that, that's really important. And when I was young and working on breaking down setting, I would do each of these things alone. I would work on my footwork by itself, and then I would work on my arms and where I'm taking the ball by itself, and then I would work on my hands, like each component by itself. And the lower body and your arms really affect where your hands are actually touching the ball. But I believe that the most important part of setting is probably your hands and how you are actually touching the ball, because your footwork could be off and you could have your arms in a strange position, but your hands can fix a lot of things. So I found myself many times in strange body positions. And if I have strong hands and I work on my finish, I can correct a ball that's maybe a little bit off I'm trying to set a 4 and the ball's a little bit on my right, and I need to make sure that I keep it off the net. I can push a little bit more with my right hand to make sure that I'm not setting the ball tight. But you can't really do that with your feet and with your arms. That really comes from handwork. So I think I spent a lot of time when I was young sitting in a chair and having my coach toss me balls, and I would just work on hand strength and speed and getting the ball out of my hands. And that also, we work on location with that. But even though I think that hand work is really important, I don't think that should take away from putting a lot of time into footwork and arms and just body getting square. All of those things are really important still. But I just think that our hands, if we have put a lot of time into that, they can do things for us and help us in a lot of tough situations. So that would be probably have a little bit of a notch above the others, is our hands.
That was so helpful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I love that answer. First off, you gave us 3 things we can work on, and then that specific kind of nature with your hands. I think first off, I'm looking at the questions right now. We have almost all of our setters asking you a question, which is great. But I think just thinking about the hands, a lot of times a ball isn't going to be where you want it, but like you mentioned, you can manipulate its location and its flight just with the way that your hands are shaped. So setters, make sure we keep that in mind. All right, our next question is going to be asked by Brenna Williams. Would you mind unmuting yourself, Brenna?
Thank you so much for coming. My question is, do you have any tips on how to improve setting while at home?
Hi, Brenna. Great question. Yes, what I just mentioned, sitting in a chair and doing drills, just sitting down, I think that can help us just with touching. We want to touch the ball as much as we can while being at home. And if you have a ball in a wall, you can get a lot done. You can just getting that feel, working on hand speed, or if you're setting far away, you can do a lot of things with just a ball in a wall. If you have a chair and someone to toss to you, you can work on hand speed. Also, like sometimes you'd have to lean, and if you're sitting in a chair and the ball is being tossed to you, and you'd have to lean a little bit. But I think as I think about this, for me, the time that we have right now at home can be used so well with making ourselves stronger. So when I was young, I started lifting when I was 8 years old. So I was lifting very, very early, but it was for track and field. And then when I started volleyball, I started lifting for volleyball. And my focus was on hand strength. So I don't know if you guys can see me. I don't know if am I frozen? Or can you guys see me?
Right now, I'm just seeing the C. I'm not seeing the picture of it. It might come back.
Okay, okay. I don't know hopefully it will come back, but if you guys can hear me, that'll do. What I would suggest is if you have a broomstick and like a piece of rope and something heavy, and you make a little like device where you can attach the rope to a weight, and you can roll it up just using your forearms and your hands. I don't know if you guys, yes, exactly, Kat.
Yeah.
If you do exercises like that, it will help so much when you get back on the court, because your hands and wrist strength can help you when you're in uncomfortable positions. You're taking the ball really high. You're doing, I don't know, strange movements, or like in a tough situation tied at the net. When you have this hand strength and this wrist strength, it helps you and helps your attackers too. And so it also allows you to do crazy things, which is one of the things I love about setting, is being creative and being able to be deceptive and not let your blockers know where they are or where you're going to set. So yeah, I would say hand strength, it would be really, really great to work on right now. And rice buckets is another thing that I've done growing up, which is, I don't know if hopefully you guys, I'm sure it sounds like you guys do lift. So maybe these are things you guys already do implement, but you might think it seems minuscule and not important. That stuff is so important as a setter, to get hand strength, wrist strength, forearm strength. So you can do that stuff at home too. And then, yeah, those are the things that I'm thinking. I can try to fix my screen. I don't know if it's better or not, but.
Thank you.
I love your response, Carly. I think a lot of our athletes, with the time that they have, can really spend a few moments just getting in the gym. And funny enough, Northeast has supplied quite a few workouts, guys. So you're hearing it from an incredibly successful player, that working on your physicality can help. So I highly recommend, if you're looking for some workouts, you go on to our Northeast YouTube page and check them out.
Can I add one more thing before we move on?
For sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, with that, I just want to reiterate how important physical strength and understanding your body and what you're capable of doing is at an early age. It's something I didn't understand at the time because I was young, but I had a parent. I hit the jackpot with my uncle. He told me early on, you know, if you put in the time and work off the court, if you work out, if you get strong, it's going to help you in the long run. And so I mean, I worked out, like Kat obviously told you what I looked like at 16, but it's true. I had started working out so young that my body was so strong. I had such this great foundation of strength that when I went on to the next level where I was playing in college, I wouldn't say light years ahead, but I was so understanding of what my body was capable of that I was able to push really hard. I could do things that other setters that had been playing 4 years longer than me weren't able to do because of that physical strength. So you guys, seriously, if they have workouts available, you should consider it a gift that it's sitting there for you, and do something every day for your body to get stronger, because strength is so great in the long run to have as a setter, as an attacker. I mean, you're vertical. There's so many things with volleyball. We want to be as strong and as explosive as we can be. And it starts now. The young years are great years to start building that foundation. So sorry, I just wanted to add that.
I love that.
It's super important.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I also think, John, can I add something to that? I think that just thinking about you guys coming from the Northeast and from Connecticut, not an area that's known for volleyball greatness yet, will be. But like, this is an area that you guys can excel in. Like, there's no reason that you can't be stronger than someone from another region, right? Mm-hmm. And then like, you're going to find that all of a sudden, like, you're up at the net and you're like winning jousts that you weren't before, because you have shoulder strength and hand strength, and you have the physicality to back up the technique. And I think that's something that's super inspiring about Carli that you guys should take away from this for sure.
Cool.
Awesome. All right, let's move on to Rachel. Rachel Herget, would you mind unmuting yourself and asking Carli your question?
Hi. My question is, what are your favorite tips for attacking as a setter?
Ooh, okay. I mean, I was an actual attacker when I was younger. So I loved getting set and scoring and all of that. When I became a 5-1 setter, I was really lucky to have coaches early on that encouraged me to continue with that aggressiveness at the net and think of myself as a threat. Because if I'm someone that teams are thinking the setter will dump, then they have to think about me. The blockers have to think about what I'm doing. And so it allows some more space for my attackers to have when I'm setting them. And so a couple of things that I early on, especially in like my early club years, I would stay after practice. I don't know about every day. Sorry. I don't know about every day, but a lot often, and just get reps. I mean, I would have coaches toss me tight balls and I would work on different things. So I prefer the left hand dump to 6 to the donut. And I think, but the important thing about any dump you're doing is to be deceptive. You don't want to hide your right arm if you're dumping with your left hand. You want to show like you're setting the ball as long as you possibly can. And then the very last moment is this arm. Can you guys see me yet? I'm showing you, but.
No, we can't.
Oh no. Okay.
Carli, would you mind maybe just hopping out of the session and coming back in? That might fix your video.
Great, I'll try.
Cool.
Well, Stacia's doing a great job describing that stuff without a
Yeah, I was with her. I was like, I get it. I see it.
I actually had my right arm up as you were saying that. I'm like, all right, don't drop this hand.
I bet Josh was loving that.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
There he is.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, what's up, ladies?
Not much. How about you?
Oh, it's a cold day. I'm just rearing up for a week where it's supposed to be like in the high 80s and low 90s and sunny for an entire week. So just trying to get through this cold day.
Nice.
Yeah, it's raining right now.
What's everyone doing this weekend?
Like, just getting on the conversation.
She's the moderator. Look at her, like a boss.
I can send you the questions if you want to take over, kiddo. Oh man.
Yeah, I've been having problems with this grid app all morning. It's like funky today.
No,
Same
yeah,
here. Yeah, it's
it
not
wasn't
working.
really working, so I kind of just turned it off.
Yeah.
they came out with a new upgraded browser version that gets rid of the grid and it's implemented into Meets. So you might have to just upgrade your browser.
Convenient timing.
Yeah, Google did it. They didn't like the way people were going to that grid view, and too many people were going to it. So they've upgraded their browser to incorporate it. So if you're using the old one, it glitches sometimes and goes back and forth.
Okay, so we need to download a new version of Chrome.
Yeah, update your browser.
Okay.
Coach P, are you like an Apple genius nowadays? What are you doing?
Seriously, bro. I'm home so often. And I'm on the computer all the time. You can't believe the amount of things that I do. I mean, ask me I turn myself into a pickle during our meets.
I turn myself into a pickle.
He's all of a sudden becoming Steve Jobs, just like out of nowhere.
Steve.
There's one that he's like in.
Hey, I think we have Carli back. Carli, you're muted right now, but we can see you, which is great.
Yeah.
I think can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I don't know what's wrong, but if it happens again, I can call you from my phone. Maybe that would be better.
Sure. Whichever method works for you. I think you froze again, but we can still hear you.
Oh man. Okay. As we go on, I'll try to get it on my phone. I don't know what. Does anyone have a suggestion for why this would happen?
Coach Pete.
Coach Pete, our resident tech guru.
Me? I would just say get on your phone.
Okay. Okay. I'm trying to download the Google Meet.
You're doing a great job.
If you, Carli, if you just click the link,
it.
if you just click the link from your phone, then if you have Chrome or something, you'll be able to join. You don't necessarily need. I don't believe you need the app to do it.
Okay.
But if you get the Google Meet app, you can also type in a code.
Yeah. So you just click the link. You don't need a meeting code for this one, so you could try that. Or I mean, we can hear you fine. So
okay, I'll try it just to see if it will work, and then I'm asking to join on the phone.
Yeah.
Let's see if it goes through. Okay.
We got that nice feedback.
Does that
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you?
We can see you.
There you go.
Yeah. There we go.
Okay. I mean, I'll just do it like this then.
That's perfect.
Boom.
Okay.
Look at that. All right. We're good.
Okay. Cool.
Back to attack.
Awesome.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Awesome.
Okay.
No worries.
I think I was talking about being deceptive with a dump, but was that where we were at?
Yep.
Yeah, talking about your right hand.
Okay. So the comment I was talking about is actually one of the most important things that my club coach, my 18s year, taught me, was that when I'm going to attack, you don't want to show your opponent that you're going to attack. You're going to be attacking the ball. So you want to keep that right hand up as long as possible. And then it's almost like you barely move it and you still keep it high to be aggressive with your left. And so I worked on that a lot after practice every day. Just that movement of going to get the ball and then barely moving my right to get my left going. And one thing I would suggest is to work on all kinds of dumps early on, like aggressive to six, deep to corners, just to have the feeling and the confidence to be able to do that in a match is really, really important. So coaches, I'm sure you guys are encouraging and wanting your setters to be aggressive, but there's also some setters at our level now overseas that have mastered the two-hand dump, like on the ground. They're back row and they will get 3 or 4 kills a match just by being super deceptive here. And they have it down to where they have the middle blocker sold on going somewhere and they'll put it over to the donut and it's like the most frustrating moment of a volleyball match for me, but they're really good at it. So that's also something that you can work on. And I haven't mastered that one myself, but it is a great one to see other setters doing.
We're big on it. We're really big on it.
Are you really? Do you guys
I love that one. Yeah, we do.
Oh my gosh. So frustrating.
It's so effective in club. Imagine if it works in the A1 league, it's going to work in club volleyball.
Totally. one other thing that I want to say about attacking, and for coaches too, something that I wish my coaches had encouraged me to do more early on was jousting and understanding where the ball is, because dumping is great, but sometimes it's just turning your hand and pushing and actually not pushing, but holding against the middle. And a lot of setters win points that way instead of going for the dump, because they're stronger with a hold than they are with this movement. And so I didn't practice it enough early on to be great at it yet, but it's something I'm still working on to have into my game, where I can just either hold it or turn and hold as a joust. And I was just encouraged a lot to dump, and I didn't have that in my game early on. So hopefully you guys are encouraging your setters to work on both, because they're both.
I like having them turn and face too, because then you have like the added strength of your core to like push with both hands. And now, and usually the setter beats the middle there because they're smaller sometimes, which is the advantage.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. One thing I'm taking away from that is that you don't necessarily only need to be in the front row to be that deceptive and scoring setter, because I think that's a misconception. Like, oh, setter's front row, now they're a threat, where you can be a threat no matter where you are on the court, especially with that two-hand dump from the back row. So setters, let's keep that in mind. Once we get back in the gym, we want you guys impacting offensively.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on to our next question by another setter. Kat, would you mind unmuting yourself and asking Carli a question?
Hi, Carli. Thank you for joining. So my question is basically like two parts. The first part is, what do you do when a game isn't going your way, or you feel like you're just out of it? And how do you make it up to your teammates in another way? And what's something that helps you keep a positive mindset during tough matches?
Cool. Okay, you might have to remind me of the last part,
yeah,
but the first part of your question, I've learned over the years that one of my greatest tools on the court is using my breath. So if I feel like I'm spinning, or I've made a bad play, or I'm thinking so much about what just happened, I'll tell myself we need to let it go. So my way to let it go is I'll take a deep breath in, and whenever I let it out, I'm just like, and I'm like, you're gone. I'm no longer holding on to you, and I'm ready now. And then mindset wise, it's what do I need to do now to give my team what they need, or what's my job now, or something to get me more present minded into what the next action needs to look like. Because I'm sure everyone's gone through this as a volleyball player. We think a lot about what could I have just done? What should I have just done? Why did I do that? And we get spinning into a previous state. And so when we can tell ourselves, what am I going to do now? I am going to do this. It gets us present and in our bodies and ready to go forward. So that's the first thing. I use my breath. Sometimes, honestly, when I was younger, I would just yell. And it was my way of getting something out, like frustration. I would just, oh, and then that's what I would do. But I've learned as I've gotten older that there are other tools that I can use that help me currently. And that most of the time it is a breath, or sometimes it's just eye contact with a teammate, a handhold and eye contact that like, we're connected, we're here, and we're ready to go. And those teammates that I use, they know that I'm going to them for that, because I've had those conversations and they know what I need from them. So those are some things. Can you remind me of the second part of your question?
It was, how do you make it up to your teammates to like, if you shift your focus in the game to something else that you know you could like be better at?
How do you make it up to them?
Yeah.
So are you saying if you've done something wrong, how do you like make it up and be better for them? Or
like say like you're struggling.
Give an example.
Like you're struggling with your settings, so like you try harder in defense or something.
Got it. Okay. So for one of the things that I've learned is if, for example, I'm setting, I can't connect with my middles on a gap, and I'm struggling and I really can't. Sometimes I will just verbalize that, tell my middles, hey, I cannot find that set today. And if I set you, be ready to help me out. Like maybe it needs to be a tip for a little bit or whatever, but I want to set you the ball and I want to find it, but I'm just struggling with it. So verbalizing it to them sometimes can help them know that they can be even more open to helping me. And maybe they have to help me like in a different way. So one thing is verbalizing it, talking about it, because if we just keep it within ourselves, it can get too much and in our heads and we feel alone. And that's not the case in a team sport. You're not alone. So verbalizing it, connecting, making that connection is huge. And the other part that I love that you said is if I'm struggling with one part of my game, there are so many other things that you can do, whether it's defense, blocking, if it's just celebrating your teammates, if it's telling your teammate you're great, like giving them confidence, letting them know that you're there for them. You can be a verbal support, you can be a physical support, you can do so many things. So I would suggest that you find ways that what makes you feel great during a match. Like, do you feel great when a teammate grabs your hand? Do you feel great when they make eye contact with you? And then do that for them. If you're struggling with something, you can do those things. And even if you're not physically performing, emotionally and energetically and all of that, you're giving to them and you're helping them be better. And that's what this is about. It's about you obviously being the best you can be, but also how can you make everyone around you better too? And with that, I just want to suggest there's always those conversations off the court that are great, and asking your teammates, hey, what can I do to help you be your best? And I've had conversations like that all across every level. Maybe not at your age. I don't know if I was having these conversations yet, but in college and professionally, I've definitely had them. And you learn some of the coolest things. Like, some of your teammates are going to say, I really love it whenever you tell me that I am the best middle blocker in the entire world. Like, I love it whenever, and I've done that before. I'm like, you are the best freaking middle blocker ever, and I want to set you every ball, so be ready. Like, some of them are like that. Some of them say, I love it when you, because I have this crazy eye look, like I get super intense, and like I love it when you make eye contact with me because it just gives me all that confidence. I'm like, okay, every time I'm just gonna stare into your soul, like, God, all of my energy, right? And then others just want technical feedback. They don't want any of that crazy energy. They just want you to tell them, you can do this on your block, or, hey, you got the next, just encouraging word. So every teammate is, every teammate is different. And I think it's great to learn that about our teammates. So anyways, yeah, did you have another part of your question, or was that all of it?
No.
Cool. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love that response. You gave us so many useful tips there. And just to kind of recap, I think a lot of self-exploration is needed to find out what makes you feel great on the court, and being able to verbalize that and being able to kind of take ownership of that, whether it be eye contact or a phrase. I think now that we have some time away from the court would be a great opportunity for you to think, what makes me feel great on the court, and I need to be able to verbalize that to a teammate so we can make everyone feel awesome out there. And then the second part was, like, you have a lot of tools. If one portion of your game isn't working, lean on the other portions of your game and you'll make it through with your team. So huge, big time tips. I love that. We're going to move into Emma Appleman. She's another one of our setters, and actually a player on Coach Kat's team. So Emma, would you mind unmuting yourself?
Hi.
Hi.
So you're obviously a very good blocker. I was wondering if you have any blocking tips, or some tips on how you transitioned from standing blocking to swing blocking.
Oh yeah, cool. Great question. That blocking for me is like one of the most exciting parts of volleyball. I love it, and I've told myself early on, like, I can be a great blocker. Even though I'm a setter, like, I will be a great blocker. And that's important. It's important to have a mindset of being an aggressive blocker. So some of the keys that I've used over the years for blocking are big hands is a big one for me, like big, strong hands. And I think, again, going back to strength, being strong in your core and your, like, this trunk region of your body is really important. And then going over, grabbing the ball, staying over the net as long as you can. These types of things are things that I tell myself. But if you're transitioning from standing to swinging, the repetition of just the foot pattern, the right, I don't know if you guys do a 4 or a 3 step, but when you're going right, left, right as a right side blocker, that left, right is a quick gather, and you want to be balanced. You want to be underneath your trunk. Like, you want your feet to be, and whenever you're exploding, you're really driving up. So, but the arms are so important. And a lot of times I see swing blockers, they do the foot pattern right, but they don't use their arms. So when I was young and learning how, I would use every ounce of strength that I had with my arms to get me going up. And then as you do this more often, I started to realize, okay, if I have big arms, it's mostly for a higher ball. Like, I can have a slow, big arm swing. But if it's a fast go ball, keeping your arms tight but still using them is really important. So I think the repetition in practice without balls, without setting going on, is real. It helps you a lot because you get comfortable with the movement, and then the I guess, the degree of arm swing that you're working with. But another thing about one of the things that I've struggled with, and I think a lot of setters or blockers do, is when you start swinging, you want your arms kind of go with your body sometimes, because you're going through the air and it's hard to stop. So it's really important to feel the line of strength from your hand through your trunk, like to your hip, and keep that right arm straight over on the right side of your head. Because as soon as you start doing this, that's vulnerable place, and you can get tooled a lot. You'll get hit off your hand. So the more I spent time on grabbing from this like direct line over my body, the better and better I got. And so there's the keys that I told you before, the keys that I use, like going over and grabbing the ball, staying over as long as you can. Sometimes when I had one coach that was like, you grab the ball before the attacker hits the ball. So it was like, I would be over there and just like wanting to grab the ball out of the air before the attacker even hit it. And I'm getting like warm thinking about this, but blocking is such a cool part of the game. I know, I'm ready to go play. Let's go. It's such a cool skill. And I've even worked with like on my teams overseas. I had a teammate in Brazil. She's our second setter. She's a little bit smaller. And she came to me during a match. She's like, I can't do it. I'm not a big blocker. I'm not a blocker like you. And I was like, Ananda, you can do this. I've seen you block our attackers in practice every day. You need to change your mindset. I want you to go out there and grab and I literally was just like, go do it. She went out there 2 plays later. She gets this huge block. And I was like, and she's 5'7" and hit up blocking against a 6'4" Brazilian outside hitter. And she gets this, and she turned around in the court. And I was like, yes, but you can do it. That's the thing, is you have to practice it. You have to believe that you can, and you have to see yourself doing it. But it's something that every setter can do. Even if you're over the net, just here, you can still get great blocks, but you have to be strong with your hands, with your arm placement. And so, oh my gosh, I love blocking. Obviously, I'm like sweating over here, excited about it. But,
when you block on the swing,
question.
Do you chicken wing or do you like full arm swing?
I do both. And it depends on I tried to say that earlier. Maybe I'm just talking too fast. But on a go set, if the ball is a little bit faster, I do chicken wing a little bit more. So I don't know if you guys can see me great, but I have my pajama pants on, but whatever. So if I'm here and it's a fastball, I'll turn and do this and then go up as fast as I can. But if it's a higher ball, I totally use it's almost like an approach. And when I approached to hit when I was younger, I had this huge like double arm lift, and it's the same with blocking. You want to use every ounce of that like torque and ability that you have with your arms to get you up. So I personally believe more with the long arms. I feel I do that more often. But if it's a gap, or I guess not a gap, a go to the outside, I don't know what you guys call it, but a fastball to the core. Okay, a go. You want to have chicken arms is great. But you still want to use them. Don't not use your arms because it's fast. Like you can still get a lot of strength from that movement. You just have to practice it and feel comfortable doing it. And what that allows you to do is just get your arms over the net faster, because that's what we want. We want to be over the net as long as possible, to take up space as long as possible, to help our defense as long as we possibly can. So when we get over and we're staying over, that quick arm chicken wing move, it just helps us get over the net earlier and stay over longer. Got really excited, guys.
I'm so hyped up right now.
Yeah,
watch someone.
For everyone watching, I don't know if you can tell, but obviously Carli is passionate and is getting even amped up just thinking about aspects of the game. Besides her fantastic answer, I want us to focus on, this is an athlete that's been playing volleyball for years and is glowing when she's talking about it. So I mean, that's like the dream. Let's get fired up, even when we think about volleyball.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You guys really, I want to go play. I haven't felt like this in a while. This is so cool.
All right, we're going to move on to our next question, which is going to be delivered by Coach Kat.
Okay. Carli, obviously you're super cerebral as a player. I think we can see that. I knew that, but I think we can see that just in your answers. You're very thoughtful in everything, that from your training to how you think about each skill. And we talk to our setters a lot about decision making, and I wanted to know what are the factors that you kind of consider the most, various factors, when you're deciding, either who to set if it's a specific player, or where to set kind of in different situations, service, free ball, transition, all that, what goes into those decisions.
Great. Okay, cool. So this is something I'm still learning about. It's still something that evolves with every team, with every, like every team I'm playing against, every team I'm playing with, these situations change. So, but there is a core foundation to like what determines what's going to happen in this play. And a lot of it has to do with my opponent blocking system. Who's on the other side of the net? Where is their weakest blocker? Do they have a setter up right now, or is their opposite up? And who is the better blocker? And the reason, obviously, you do that is, I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you talked to some of your older setters about isolating and overloading and which to do. And what do you guys talk about this sometimes? Or
more, we talk about a lot about like isolating hitters. So working, like running a gap and then setting the wave or red behind and running a one and setting a go and trying to like bunch certain hitters together and space hitters out.
Great. Great. So that's in serve receive, inside out. That's what I'm thinking about a lot of times is, do I want to isolate one of my hitters against a weak blocker, or do I want to overload a really good blocker and get her to have to think and then try to get her to guess wrong type of thing. So I'm taking into account my attackers, who's hot, kind of the flow of the game can be important sometimes. What just happened? Did one of my attackers just get blocked and I can see that she's not feeling great? Or did one of my attackers just get blocked and she wants the ball again? Do I set a play up to get her one-on-one? So there are a lot of things that go into it, but isolating and overloading are two big parts of setting like your mindset and setting up a play. And if I have a weak blocker, if I have a setter blocker on the other side of the net and she's smaller and I have my best outside hitter over there, I'm probably going to run a one with my middle and sell it like I'm setting it, and I'm going to set a go because it's going to make the middle stay. She's going to have to stay. She'll either be late to the outside or she won't make it at all. So that growing up, my goal was, can I get my hitters one-on-one? Can I give them space? How do I do that? And so deceptiveness and working on that strength just to be able to be here and not show very much movement to get my attackers with all this space. That was like that's like my exciting place. So that's in serve receive. In transition and free ball can be different. So I still, again, like you guys, I'm still learning. I'm still trying to get better at these things. But with free ball situations, a lot of times middles are thinking she's probably going to set the middle because it's going to be a perfect pass. And maybe she hasn't set the middle in a while because we've been getting them out of system a lot. So I still make this mistake. I want to get my middles the ball and I'll set them. And a lot of times the middle blocker near the net commits on those plays. Free balls, a lot of times middle blockers commit. So it's a great opportunity to get your outside or your right side one-on-one. And can you be balanced and show that you're going to set that one, but then set the red or set the go or set the bic, because we should be working on our free ball skills enough to where free balls, we're diming this and we're going to be in system and every attacker is going to be available. So in transition, that a lot of times depends on where the pass takes me, but I love going against the flow. I love making the middle blocker really stressed on the other side of the net. So if I'm running to 4 and I'm pretty balanced, I'll try to jack it back and get my opposite in the game so that the middle blocker can't just take a step and sit on the 4 every single time that we're in transition and I move to 4. But I do try to mix it up. I try not to be, I don't have really a pattern. I've been told that over the years. It's like, it's hard to tell where you're going to go and what you're going to do. And it changes a lot. It depends on, what's just happened and how I think my attackers are feeling and all these things. I take all these things into account all the time. And it gets overwhelming sometimes, especially in high pressure situations, but you get good at problem solving quickly. And when you start thinking about these things and you have kind of a checklist of like, who are my blockers? Where are my attackers? Do I want to isolate, overload? And then in out of system type of situations, it's most of the time, it's where is their weakest blocker and my best attacker? Where's that matchup going to, because there's 9 times out of 10, you're going to have at least a double block in out of system, especially at our level, sometimes a triple block. So it's who's going to have the best chance to score or at least get the other team in trouble. And with out of system stuff, it's can I locate this as best as possible and give them an opportunity. And that's keeping the ball inside and a little bit off the net so that they're not trapped and they don't have to worry about having 2 or 3 blockers and the ball too tight to the net.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the things. I had another thought as I was talking and I just lost it, but is there any other specific question you have with that, or does that?
No, that answered it. I think that you guys can see as setters the amount of factors going into any decision, and there might not be like one formula for like, in this situation you said this, and in this, you know, I think that your answer shows that it's going to change on location of the pass, situation, where your hitters are, where their blockers are. And that's why I think like really having that outward external like vision in every play, every time everyone rotates, okay, who's in, what's going on? And you guys can see like how much Carli is thinking about that. And that requires you to like know what's going on all the time. So the kind of amount of focus and awareness and maybe attention to the scouting report. You guys have more time to prepare for each of your matches and stuff like that. It's a big difference.
Yeah.
Great answer.
Yeah. One other thing that I want to add before we move on is I've had coaches that have system rules where like the ball is here, you need to set this player. The ball is here, you need to set this player. When the ball comes here, and for me there are some setters that enjoy that. They like that type of like, I guess, instruction that like they know in this situation this is what I'm going to do. But I've never felt great in that type of situation because I like to feel what's going on, and I like to feel the flow of the game, and I like to see how my attackers are feeling and what's been going on. It's more of a feeling for me than it is like, okay, I do think about it a lot, obviously, but at the same time, there's an element of creativity that I think has to be encouraged, and especially in kids learning the game too, is like try things that are difficult. Put yourself on that edge and see how it feels. Is it worth going after again? You know, do you want to build that space of discomfort? The spaces of discomfort are awesome moments for like improvement, and we want to push those all the time. So like I had a young coach, my uncle was my coach when I was young, and he literally told me, you cannot bump set a ball. You have to set every ball with your hands. I would be laying on the ground, like sliding on my knees, trying to do the craziest things because he encouraged that creativity in me. And it made me believe I can do this early on. So then I wanted to work on my strength more and do these things. So I'm still, again, this was 20 years ago. I'm still in the gym trying to refine things and work on different ideas, but I do love that feeling and the awareness you have to have as a setter to like take all these different things into account. It's one of the reasons why I love being a setter so much. It's really hard, but it's really, really gratifying. Okay.
Awesome. I love that. I think you did a great job leading into our next question by another one of our setters, Noah.
Hi. I was wondering what your favorite part about being a setter is.
Oh, cool. I was just kind of talking about that. Well, okay. I was recently asked this question by another setter for another club, and she asked like, what's your favorite moment? And I think one of the things that I love about being a setter is the creative factor that's in it. But one of the moments I love the most is a difficult ball, like pushed all the way to left back, and I'm running as hard as I can. And I've created a relationship and a rapport with my opposite to know that she knows that if I'm running, no matter where I am, I'm going to set her. And so she's ready, but no one else in the gym knows that this is going to happen. And I will just jack the ball as hard as I can all the way back to her. And maybe she has no blocker up or a half a blocker up or one blocker up. But what that shows me is we've put in the time and effort together. We have this foundation of trust that she knows no matter how we're doing, no matter where the ball is on the court, she needs to be ready. And there's trust in that situation because I can't see her. I don't know for sure that she's ready. Like with my outside or my middle, I can see them a lot of the times out of my periphery. But with her, I don't know. But I know that we've worked on this and she knows. So it's those moments where this foundation of trust has been built. We've worked this ball a lot of times and she's ready. And then she gets her point. And I have those moments in my career that I remember specifically, these opposites that I've worked with and the joy that they have in those moments where like, she knows too, we know how much time we put into making this happen. Those are like my greatest moments of being a setter. And it has to do with also getting hitters one-on-one or with no blocker up. That's like, there's just so much that goes into that. I know that I've put in a lot of time with my strength, my being deceptive, my periphery work as a setter. There's so many things that go into it. And I just love that that shows that it's working. Like the time and effort that I put into these little things pays off whenever I can get my attackers in a position where they can just have so much fun with the ball and do whatever they want with it and score a point for our team. So those are some things. And the last thing is, I feel like as a setter, we're the middleman a lot of the time. So we have to kind of have a special relationship with each player. And it's challenging sometimes because it can push you outside of your comfort zone with certain personalities or people. And it just opens you up. I feel like I've made friends from all over the world and know so many stories about difficulties and things like that because I have these conversations to understand what my attackers need from me. And that's a special role to have, and to have to build this sort of chemistry and relationship with each player. So I love that part too. But I do miss attacking. And sometimes I imagine going back for a team and playing as an attacker instead. Maybe one day. We'll see.
We can always dream. We can always dream.
Yeah, right.
I love that response. And Noah is one of our setters who is going to be leaving us soon. And I'm sure she can take those tips away where you can build that foundation of trust with any team that you become a part of. So Noah, keep that in mind. Here, we're going to move on to Coach Garrett. He has a question to ask you.
Cool.
What's up, Carli?
Hi.
Big fan.
Thanks.
I'm going to ask two questions, Ashley, because
Okay.
I'm going to monopolize time here. And one's just going to build on some of the stuff we just talked about. But I'm wondering, for you, in your opinion, how do you balance the role of being a setter? I think it's one of the things that we try to discuss is, hey, like, this is a very important leadership role. You're kind of out there quarterbacking the team. But at the same time, we have to be accepting of other people helping us. And we don't want to have this mentality of like, get out of my way and I'm going to set every ball, even if it's on the end line type deal. And kind of like, I don't know, being like a little bossy at times and being directive. So how do you find that balance between those two things?
Great. So like I said earlier, one of the things that my earliest coach encouraged in me was this aggressiveness to set every ball. And so I learned early on that like I needed my libero and my outside hitter in the middle back to understand that I'm going to try to get to every single ball that I can because I've worked on these out of system balls and I know that I can do it. But there's also an element of help me in certain situations. So just as a setter, knowing like I want to set the ball, but at the same time, I can ask for help and encourage my other players to help me when I'm in a difficult situation. I've just blocked and I'm coming down and I can't get there. So what I've learned is there's been moments of frustration where players would just come in and take balls thinking that I couldn't get there, but they're not really listening to me. I'm a very vocal player. So if I need help, I'm telling you. Name calling has helped me a lot. So like if I know who my libero is and I'm saying, Sam, you're like, go. It's not help me. It's I know who needs to help me right now because I've prepared for this moment. So there is a balance in that and finding trust and pushing those limits and having those conversations where I'm going to try to get there with my hands. And if I can't, and you're in a really balanced situation, I need you to know that like, we're trying to make the best situation for our attacker. So if you feel like you have that, call me off. And those repetitions build in practice and having conversations before and after the play. I've definitely gotten angry with some players because they just feel like they should do it, but they don't have they're not really seeing what's happening. Like I'm in right back defense and I didn't dig the ball. So I'm 2 steps away, but they're not aware of what's going on. So it's really important to know where your setter is. Is she in trouble? Did she just block that ball? And those things just come with, repetition and practice and awareness. And you have to be present in what's happening right now. And we're always trying to set up our attackers to have the best opportunity to score for us. So as liberos and as middle backs, I don't know who you have setting normally, but for us, most of the time it's our libero. And we have that relationship where, like if the ball's low and fast and I'm going to have to get my platform on it, it's maybe better for you to step in because you're really good at that and you've worked on that. But if it's a high dig, just encourage me to get there. I'll get there with my hands and I'll give us an opportunity to score too. So that's my take on that specific situation. But also with that, I've learned with my it's still difficult for me because I take a lot as a setter. I feel a lot of responsibility, and it still gets heavy for me sometimes because I feel like I need to have these conversations on my own, and but it's really great to have a coach that can be there and facilitate conversations like that, and it's kind of an outside perspective. Like, this is what I'm seeing. What are you guys feeling? You know,
Right.
And getting into that feeling state of what is actually happening on the court is really important. And at my level, it's not as common, but when I was younger, those kinds of conversations were really important and sometimes had to be facilitated from a coach or just at least encouraged. Like, you guys have this conversation in practice. Like, let's figure it out, you know?
Sure.
Having that space to do that is really important because it builds trust. Then, you know, okay, I've practiced it. I've worked on it in practice. And when we get into a match and it happens, we're going to have the answer. Yeah, that's
awesome. Thank you. No, that's awesome. Yeah, it's definitely it's a tough position. There's a lot of leadership involved and a lot of pressure, and a lot goes through you. So I totally feel the frustration, and building that trust, I think, is probably the most important thing that you mentioned there. But my second question comes from a quick story of the one time that I was in Italy with Kat, and we had a conversation with you. And you, within this conversation, talking volleyball, you told us, you said, "I am the best blocking setter in the world." And I remember getting chills when you said that, because I was like, damn, she's right. You know, she is. And it was such a cool statement. One of the things that we find is that young athletes struggle to find that type of confidence. They even struggle sometimes to accept a compliment, where we say, "Hey, you're really good at setting off one foot when you're on the run." And they're like, I don't know, maybe not me. So my questions are this: where did you find this confidence, and why is it okay to have it?
I love this question.
Boom.
And this, I'm already getting emotional just thinking about it, because this was a learned behavior for me, a learned mindset. I didn't know that it was okay to believe in myself and to talk about it for a long time. And I had so much self-doubt growing up. The amazing thing with my story is I had a parent that believed in me so much that he invested so much time in me. And he was my belief in me. Like, hearing him over and over was my belief in me. As soon as I went to college years and I was alone and I didn't have him every day, I struggled with myself. I struggled with my self-talk, what I was like, how I felt about myself. The same thing when someone would compliment me, I didn't really know how to answer, because I kind of had him there to encourage the situation and say, yeah, she's put in so much work. Like, I put in so much work, and I knew that what I was doing was great, but I didn't know that I was great. Like, that that it was special that I was doing this. And so over a long time, I would say the last 8 years, I have learned how important self-talk is, and the things we are telling ourselves, and not just the things we're telling ourselves, but the way we feel when we tell ourselves these things is so important. And what I wish every child was told when they were born is, you are so worthy of self-love. You should love yourself with everything you have. And from that place, love everything around you, because we are not told that. We're told that it's, you're being selfish or cocky or these things that's not true. There are moments that you cross a line, but in general, you have to believe in yourself first. You have to have that feeling space of, I deserve this, and I'm putting in the work, and this is my dream, and so there is this fine line, and I'm still working on it. I keep saying that, but I only playing this sport and doing this because I still love it. I'm passionate about it. It is helping me grow on and off the court. There's so many things that I love about this sport and what it does, what it facilitates, the teamwork and all of that. So what I guess my main takeaway is you have, I don't want to say you have to, but if you believe in yourself, if you imagine and feel this space of, I'm putting in this work, I know what dream I want to accomplish, and you tell yourself these things, when you show up in a situation and someone says, hey, Sam, you right foot pivot off the net, you're nailing that 4-ball. It is so good to see. You can stand and say, I have worked so hard. Thank you for telling me that, because you've worked really hard. And so it's really important for you to be able to take that. And it's not, yeah, I'm the best. Like, I know it, that is so different. It's so different. But it's important to take that. It's all about give and receive. You receive love from your mom and you give your mom love. You receive feedback from your coach and you give your coach feedback. It's all about giving. It's about this relationship that you're facilitating. It's the same with yourself. You have to facilitate that relationship with yourself. You can have hard moments and have a really bad thought. And then there's a moment of reflection and, okay, I made that mistake, but I know that I can do something different, and you make a different action moving forward. And so, yeah, I'm super passionate about this because I was in one of the best teams in the world this last season. I was in a really important moment in a tournament, and I was having so much self-doubt and I couldn't get through it. I was like racking my brain. I didn't feel right. I didn't feel trusted. And I realized I haven't put in the time to feel these connections that I need to feel. I need to feel this trust with my coach, with my teammates. It was a new environment, teammates from all over the world speaking 5 different languages. And I didn't feel like I was being seen or heard or whatever. And those things are important. So anyways,
Absolutely.
It's just, go ahead. What'd you say?
No, I was saying absolutely. I think the environment is crucial for that.
It totally. And yeah, I just, I'm all about this topic because it's still a work in progress for me. And I'm still finding ways and learning about myself. And another thing about this is we'll constantly grow and change and evolve with this sport. Like as individuals, as peoples, our surroundings, our life, there's so many factors that go into it. So just being open to different things and finding your way. I mean, my way works for me, but it might not work for someone else. And being open to that and allowing that person to find that space is so important. But I do think that I'm just spinning now because there's so much I could talk about with this, but I hope that
it's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was definitely answered. I think the big takeaways are you find that confidence from training really hard and believing in the work that you're putting in. And that it's okay to do that because you truly believe it.
Totally.
Cool.
And coming back to that moment that I told you guys that, it took me a long time to actually say those words. I had been told it multiple times. My first year going to Italy, someone said, "You're the best blocking setter in the world." And I was like, I just got out of college. I'm playing, like, how? And it happened again. And of course there's opinions. Some people would say there's no way that but I really felt like I put in so much time into this skill. And I know that there are a lot of people that are saying that. So I started embodying it. Like this is what I do. I am, and I will be. But it took me to continue practicing and putting in the reps and all of it wasn't just, okay, I'm the best. And now I'm going to withhold that. I need to put in more work and find new ways to be better and push that. And so it just constantly is evolving. And that's, again, why I'm still playing the sport, because I'm seriously still getting better. It doesn't stop. It's incredible.
Thank you, Matt. That's an awesome answer.
Cool. You're welcome.
That's a ridiculous answer. I love that. That was intense. I love the idea of like Garrett summarized it. All your belief is like kind of work driven. But one thing I want to parcel out of that is it's not just necessarily physical work. It can be relationship work. It can be emotional work on yourself. So all of those are incredibly valuable aspects of the work you're putting in. So ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you are thinking about all the aspects of yourself that you can work on and work with other people in order to reach that level of confidence where you can believe in yourself.
Really?
All right, we're going to move on to our next question.
Okay.
Another one of our setters, Olivia.
Hi, thank you for being here.
Hi.
My question was, what is your favorite dump and what kind of reps do you do to like perfect it?
Cool. Okay. This is actually an interesting question because my favorite dump is one that actually hasn't been encouraged by very many coaches as I've gotten older. It was encouraged when I was young, and it was a left-handed dump right behind my shoulder to like zone 4, like right behind the left front blocker. And as I've gotten older, there are a lot of coaches that say that's a blind dump. You can't see the blocker, and you're going to the best defender on the court, which is the libero. So you shouldn't do it anymore. But there was something, I had trained that dump to know where my blockers were and the moments to be able to do it. So it's my favorite dump to do, but not every coach allows me to do it. So it depends on which situation I'm in. I love that dump because it's really, really deceptive. A lot of times, and I think it was actually in the hype video that Nora made. I think it's in there a couple of times. It's just so much fun because nobody sees it coming. But then when someone does see it coming, it gets shoved right back in my face. And so then that's what I get yelled at by my coaches. So anyway, there's that fine line. So I obviously do work on other dumps as well. And a great one is the left-handed dump to the donut right into the middle of the court, because there's no defender sitting there ever. The only one that's really going to be able to touch it is the middle blocker if she's ready for it, or maybe the left back defender, because the libero kind of stays a little bit more shallow. Sometimes the right back defender. But the reps that I've done for this are, like I said before, when I was younger, I stayed after practice a lot because I wanted to be really comfortable being really aggressive. And as a setter, an attacking setter, you want to be thinking, I'm going to score right now. I'm not just going to I don't want to give them the ball. I want to score, or you want to be a threat so that the middle blocker is thinking about you, which creates space for your attackers if you do end up setting them. And so I would have coaches toss me balls, and I would just work on that movement and try and stay as deceptive as possible by keeping that right hand up and using this movement along the net. If the ball is past 3 going into 4, that's a great time to go forward with your left hand, like right in front of the right back defender, that area, because it's so fast. I mean, especially because the middle blocker usually stays in the middle of the court. They're trying to read. And so there's that space between the middle blocker and the right front blocker. That's something that I'm still not great at. And honestly, it was really frustrating for me a couple years ago because I couldn't get my arm to go forward. I had worked so much on this back dump so I would say the balance of having all 3 of those movements is great. And then another thing is, it's great to have the coach tossing, but it's also really good to have live reps with your libero or your outside hitter passing balls, because there's different heights and different feelings. And so you want to get comfortable in a bunch of different situations, and also just being able to determine if this is a good time to dump or not, because sometimes we make that mistake. We try and we hit the net, but the more reps we have, live type of reps, the more confident we'll feel in games. So yeah, those are some things that I like.
Awesome. All right, we're going to head into our last question, and then we're going to go into our game ready visualization with Josh B. All right. So, Kevin, would you mind unmuting yourself and asking Carli your question?
Yeah, hi. I was just wondering, what has been the most significant or meaningful moment or time period in your career up to this point?
Oh, man. Okay. The most significant, I'm not going to talk about just one. I'm going to talk about 3, I think. Okay. One of them was my senior year at Cal, 4 years with that program. We had made history 2 times, and there was a lot of great things happening for our team. But we lost the national championship that year to Penn State. But those 4 years, I had invested a lot in this dream that I had of making history, of winning a national championship, of creating this like cool, amazing story with this program. And so we had invested a lot of time in the culture, hard work, what that looked like in spring training. There was so much that went into it. And I felt really good about all that I had done. But at the awards banquet, the AVCA All-American Awards banquet, I knew that I was going to be an All-American that year. And I had no idea that I would receive the National Player of the Year award, though it was rare for a setter to get it. No one thought we were going to make it to the finals. So it was there were other players like Alex Kleinman that were amazing players and had great years. And so the moment that I was on that stage and they called my name, it was like this euphoric feeling that how the heck is this happening? And I wish I could find the speech that I made, because I don't know what I said. I was not prepared. All I remember saying for sure was thanking Sandy Barber, because she was our athletic director. And it was because our media relations guy had said, if any of you receive this award, you should make sure that you thank our athletic. So that's the only thing I remember, like specifically saying, because I had been told you have to say these words. And then I know I went into something about my family and my uncle and our time together. But what that moment was for me was this like outside reinforcement that I had done something great. And I knew that inside of me, I was doing everything that I could. But that moment was showing me that all of this work, all of this energy, all of this dream that I have, others are seeing it too. And that's really cool. But I think the more important part is what you feel. But then having that next step, going to play overseas, going to the national team, I had this feeling like, oh my gosh, I can do anything. I will do whatever and that was one of the most significant moments, because it instilled this outside confidence that I didn't even know from who I was getting it, but people were seeing what I was capable of doing. And that was so cool. So that was one of the moments. And then one other one that I'll talk about is just that the year of 2016, I had been let go from the national team after being with them for a lot of years. And it's a really long story, but the cool thing about it was a coach told me, we don't think we'll have space for you to come back. And it was really heartbreaking, but I went to my professional team and I had a really great year. And I had this kind of freedom of, I'm just going to do what I can. And I still have that dream of going to the Olympics and I want to be there, but if I'm not the right fit, that's not my choice. I've put in my work. I went to my professional team. I had a great year. We won the hardest tournament to possibly win, called Champions League. It's a long tournament. And then I got a call within 3 days from the coach of the national team saying, we would like for you to come try out again. And what that period of time was I was told it probably wasn't going to happen. I went and I just kept working and I just kept doing what I love to do. And I put in more time and more effort into these things that I was passionate about. And then it paid off. I got my tryout. I got my tryout extended. I got to go to my first tournament with the starting team of the starters of the national team. And then I was on the Olympic roster within 3 months. And I went to the Olympics and I got to experience my dream. And it was like this crazy period of time where, again, it took me with some self-reflection, not giving up, continuing my work and doing what I needed to do. And then outside that, people see that. And it starts with a dream, but these moments just showed me that like really anything is possible. And that story in itself is crazy. But those were a couple of the coolest.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
What great moments. I love the idea that the work is being recognized. And it comes from a place where like you were driven to do it yourself, and then that recognition only motivates you to do more and to be better, and that belief in yourself is validated.